You ready? You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, gays and gays. This is the Real Pineapple. This is your humble host, Hunter, here. Hope you're having a good one. So I've got a review for new indie film Or Something, which is directed by Jeff Schroeder, who you know from View from a Blue Moon, The Birthday Cake, and Same Time Next Week. This film was actually written by, produced by, and stars Mary Neely, who plays main character Olivia. You know her from Happiness for Beginners, Pink Trailer, and Lila Crocodile. And then Kareem Rahma, who you know from Ferguson Rises, Out of Order, and Keep the Meter Running. So, this film, one thing I gotta give them props for not just producing and starring in this, but also writing this, because, you know, I've talked about my love of indie film, and this is a very quick-witted, very nice conversational piece. I've talked about on the pod before. I love stuff like Frost Nixon, things where it's very heavy dialogue and it's primarily two people just kind of going back and forth, and that's essentially what this is. Olivia and Amir, they go ahead and show up to this apartment who is occupied by Teddy. Teddy is played by Brandon Wardle, who you know from Curb Your Enthusiasm, and then of course I Think You Should Leave with Tom Robbins. He's also in Easter Sunday as well. And Teddy is just being a very douchey stoner. Very much one of those guys where he's like, oh, hey, look, I broke my leg. Like, could you do this for me? Could you get that for me? Could you get this for me? Could you get that for me? Very much taking advantage of his injury, which, by the way, they don't actually ever tell you what happened with his foot, how he broke it. So I do wish they would have given us that. But basically, they both, Olivia and Amir, are both owed money by Teddy. Teddy says, oh, well, I don't have it. You're actually going to need to go ahead and go uptown to go ahead and talk to Uptown Mike, as he is called. The person who plays Uptown Mike, I was very happy to see who played Uptown Mike. It's a really great cameo, and I really enjoyed that twist as far as who's playing him. So then this turns into a movie with just the two of them, as far as them going to uptown New York to go ahead and collect this money, and they have multiple conversations along the way. And this is where the dialogue part obviously becomes the heaviest, because it is just these two people going ahead and getting the show out. And I will say, I haven't seen Mary Neely and Kareem Rahma in anything before. I really like their chemistry together. It makes a lot of sense that they wrote this together and that they decided to go ahead and star in it together, because they have a very natural chemistry, especially when it comes to having deeper conversations. They have this whole conversation about, you know, the patriarchy and how men are all bad. And as I'm recording this, it's almost 3 a.m. I will be the first to admit, I'm just kind of overhearing that shit. I understand that, you know, the patriarchy is a thing, and that obviously women have been put in positions in which it's harder for them to succeed. I get that. But the way at which she comes at him is so confrontational. And it's like she just needs someone to bitch at. Not even about trying to potentially educate Amir, but it feels like bitching for the sake of bitching. It's really how I know I keep going back to the Taylor Swift well, but that's how it feels whenever, you know, someone criticizes Taylor Swift and the immediate retort is to go to sexism. That's what it felt like on her end. But I will say, as the film goes on and as they begin to learn about each other and go ahead and challenge each other, you can tell that Olivia gets more, I don't want to say confident in her stance, but she's able to articulate it better, as well as Amir. And there is this point where it feels like they are actually learning off each other. And look, as someone who is very much like Amir in the sense that if someone's going to tell me something like that, like, men are all stupid, my natural instinct is to go ahead and challenge that and be like, okay, you really want to say something that's stupid? Let's talk about it. I like the way that Amir challenges Olivia, and I like the way that Olivia challenges Amir, and you can tell she's clearly one of those people. I think that she is such a, not an aggressive personality, but she is more often than not so potentially confident in her stances that men could find that a little intimidating. And I think a lot of people, and I've talked about this in the pod before, I think there are those buzzwords, those topics that some people are just like, I don't even want to talk about this because there's no positive, there's no positive outcome if I go down this road. It feels like Olivia kind of gets away with that a lot, but Amir is very confident in himself and being able to have a conversation. And so you get that juxtaposition, you get that back and forth between the two of them. That's really quite engaging. I think I've told I might have told this story on the podcast before, but I was going to the mall at one point, and I opened the door up. There was some girl behind me, but I was always taught that, you hold doors open for anyone. That's just an instinct. I remember I didn't do it once, and my mom fucking smacked me upside the head. She'll end up in a bad home because of that. But I remember she smacked me, and I was like, what the fuck? So it's just a natural instinct thing. And I remember the first thing she said, she didn't say thank you. She didn't say, oh, thanks a lot. She just goes, yeah, I have a boyfriend. And it's just like, bitch, what do you like what do you want? And Amir makes that point where he's like, I'm just trying to be chivalrous. Why does it immediately have to go to, I'm trying to fuck you? Can men be absolutely terrible? Absolutely. But I really appreciate the way that Amir presents his point. And at points, it's clearly coming from a place of frustration where he's just like, I'm trying to talk to you. Why are you trying to escalate this into an argument when there doesn't need to be one? And I think that's something that people in general need to hear. Sometimes people just want to have a conversation. It doesn't need to always escalate to, this hard line in the sand. Sometimes it's actually good to just, talk to someone, and you might actually, learn something. And credit to Amir in that sense, because there are points where Olivia says some shit where I was like, man, I probably would have shot her out of a cannon by now. But Amir hangs in the cut, and I really like the way that they start to kind of drill down to each other's insecurities and about why each person needs the money. Because it's a good amount of money. It's $1,200 that each of them are needing. We see Olivia at the beginning of the film, and she's trying to donate some clothes just to get some money. And I will admit, I had this preconceived notion based on how she was dressed. I was like, I wonder if da-da-da. And then I will say at the end of the film, yeah, never mind. That's too much of a spoiler. I'll just leave it there. So, one of the moments in this movie that is quite funny is Amir pays Olivia $5 because she starts to do, she goes into the whole, guys are only nice to girls they want to have sex with, which, I call bullshit on, but whatever. And so he goes, explain it to me. And she immediately goes, read a fucking book. I wish Amir would have been like, which book? Because I feel like there's not a universal book on which, men should read. But then they have this conversation about it, and how she talks about how she wears these, she wears this big ass puffy winter coat and a beanie. I don't think she looks homeless at all, but I think that's the intent of the movie. I think even when she's dressed in all these baggy clothes, she's fucking gorgeous. Which does lead to a really funny scene where she ends up taking off the coat, and you see that she's got, a body under there, and then that first thing she says is, "Oh, now you want to fuck me?" And he's just like, "You just took off your coat. We're like, calm down." but, um, but one of the conversations that they have here is where, um, Amir basically tells her like, you're a puffer fish. Like you're prickly for the sake of being prickly. And trust me, I've met people who are like that. And she, retorts by saying, it weeds out all the guys who don't want to put in the work. But, and I think that's a very interesting conversation, because what is work? And I mean that in the sense of, how much work should I have to put in? Did you get screwed over by someone? That's fucking shitty, absolutely. But why should I have to pay, for the mistakes of what someone shitty did in your past? And like, what do you consider work? Do you consider texting someone, once or twice a day? Is that work? Do you consider, waiting to sleep with someone work? Like, it's such a deeper conversation, I think. But considering this film is under 90 minutes, I think they do a shockingly good job of getting a lot of information in, while having these conversations. Because again, I think these conversations are dense, but I think they do a really good job. I love what Amir says, talking about how, the lines have been crossed socially, and how he would rather be on a dating app and just talk to people that way versus doing it in real life. And Olivia, acts like, oh my gosh, that's so sad. But Amir makes a point of, this takes away the guesswork. I'm not going to make a woman uncomfortable by potentially hitting on her, and they have a partner or something, or they're not interested. If I'm on a dating app, I know exactly, why I'm there, and why the person I potentially match with is there. And when you make that point, I went, huh, okay, yeah, I get what he's saying. And there are multiple moments like that where I did find myself going like, wow, okay. And the way that they go back and forth, they have this whole conversation about paying, and about like, about like how you should pay, and like if you should pay because it's a date or what have you. And I found that funny, because he makes a point that I have made myself, where it's like, okay, yeah, women want to be equal. Okay, then pay for dinner. They pay for dinner sometimes. And she makes the point of, well, I'm not getting paid when a man's getting paid. But it's like, okay, if that's the case, and I'm paying for dinner, then like, how is that fair? And also, to Amir's point, he's like, this isn't a date, so why am I paying for you anyway? Like, there are these conversations that I do think are gonna definitely ruffle some feathers, but I do think it's really, like, you can feel the partnership between Neely and Rahma, because the volleying back and forth of the dialogue really does work here. They have a great conversation about social media and about being considered hot. That's a highlight for me as far as the film. But then like, Olivia kind of admits how she's shallow, how she has her moments of shallowness, talking about how, oh, if you're a guy and you're bald, oh, you need to get a hair transplant. And you can kind of see Amir going like what the fuck? Like, it's very interesting the way it keeps going back and forth. The film talks about being, about religion. I love the conversation they have about religion. They have a conversation about, being a single kid or versus having siblings. Like, there's a lot of stuff I think the film touches on in a very short amount of time. I think this film could have, like, I think another 10 minutes on this actually wouldn't be a bad thing. It's like I said, it's just under 90 minutes. I think 90, maybe even 95-ish minutes, or just over 90 minutes to flush some more of these conversations out. I actually think that wouldn't have been the worst thing, but I really enjoyed this. This is a solid B for me. And again, considering this is kind of like their, like one of the first big things that they've written, props to both of them for really nailing the cadence. And I could easily see this being a series. You could easily turn this into a series with Olivia and Amir. kind of like a Tuesdays with Maury thing, where they just like you could even have them just like meet up once an episode. And they just tackle like a different topic, make it like a 25 minutes per episode. I really hope there's a reason for them to revisit these characters. I really enjoyed this. So, yeah, solid B for me for Or Something. But, yeah, Or Something. Have y'all seen it? What'd you think? Let me know in the comments. You can go ahead and follow me on YouTube at The Real Pineapple. That's REEL Pineapple. You can go ahead and follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple. Oh gosh, where else? You can go ahead and follow me on, pretty much follow the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts: SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, TuneUp, and Samsung Podcasts, to name a few, at The Real Pineapple. You can follow me on Letterboxd at Black Shazam, and go ahead and follow the show on Twitch at twitch.tv/TheRealPineapple. My listing of all of the movies for the Real Scary series is up now. So go ahead and follow me on social so you know when those reviews are going to come out. And my review for Wineville, my first film for the Real Scary series this year, that is up live on the channel now, as well as my interview with Brandy Rourke, the star and director of Wineville. It's a great interview, y'all. I'm real excited for y'all to listen to that. But we will have more reviews coming up here in the next week or so, including a review for Joker Folie à Deux and The Wild Robot. But everyone, thank you so much for listening. Stay safe, take care of each other, give someone a hug, give someone a compliment. We could all use some more positivity. And never forget, as always, to keep it real.